After moving in together, my husband's parent demanded a spare key, saying, "I need to check in whenever I want." My husband handed it over without hesitation. I simply smiled and waited. A week later, they let themselves in only to find themselves locked inside with someone they never expected. When my husband, Adam, and I moved into our new home in Austin, Texas, I thought it was the start of something great. We had been married for just under a year, and this house was supposed to be our fresh start. A cozy 3-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood, enough space to settle in, maybe even start a family someday. But then, his parents happened. Adam's parents, George and Marcia, had always been a lot. Overbearing, controlling, and completely incapable of understanding the concept of boundaries. While we were dating, I had seen glimpses of it, his mom calling him 5 times a day to remind him about vitamins, his dad insisting on checking in whenever we had a date night. Annoying? Yes, but I figured once we were married and had our own place, they would naturally back off. I was so wrong. We had barely been in the house for a day when George and Marcia showed up unannounced. No warning, no invitation, just their car pulling up in the driveway like they had the right to be there. I answered the door, and before I could even say hello, Marcia walked in, looking around like she was inspecting a hotel room she wasn't quite satisfied with. "We brought you a little housewarming gift," she said, shoving a bottle of cheap wine into my hands. George followed behind her, holding a printed-out list of home maintenance tips, as if we were incompetent children who couldn't figure out how to change an air filter. I was already annoyed, but then Marcia sat herself down on our couch, crossed her legs, and said, "So, when do we get our spare key?" I blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" George chuckled like I was being ridiculous. "Oh, sweetheart, come on. Of course, we need a key. Just in case." "In case of what?" I asked. "You know," Marcia chimed in, "if there's an emergency. Or if we need to check in on things. Water the plants. Make sure you're keeping up with the cleaning." My brain stopped processing after that last part. I turned to Adam, waiting for him to shut this nonsense down. Instead, he nodded. "Yeah, that makes sense." And then he handed them a copy of our house key. I could feel every single ounce of rage in my body trying to burst out of me at once. I forced myself to smile, too sweetly. "Oh, of course," I said. "You're absolutely right." That's when I started planning. I played the long game. For a week, I acted so agreeable that even Marcia stopped raising an eyebrow at me. I thanked them for looking out for us. I made jokes about how helpful it would be. I even suggested they stop by whenever they wanted. What they didn't know was that I had spent every free moment setting a trap. Step 1. I installed a second lock on the inside of the front door, one of those heavy-duty hotel-style locks that can only be opened from inside. Step 2. I set up a motion-activated camera in the living room, which sent real-time alerts to my phone. Step 3. I made a very important phone call to my Uncle Mike. I didn't have to wait long.